Incendiary weapons. Incendiary devices or incendiary bombs are weapons designed to start fires or destroy sensitive equipment using fire, that use materials such as napalm, thermite, chlorine trifluoride, or white phosphorus. Though colloquially often known as bombs, they are not explosives but in fact are designed to slow the process of chemical reactions and use ignition rather than detonation to start and/or maintain the reaction. Napalm, for example, is petroleum especially thickened with certain chemicals into a gel to slow, but not stop, combustion, releasing energy over a longer time frame than an explosive device. In the case of napalm, the gel adheres to surfaces and resists suppression. Development and use in World War I. The first incendiary devices to be dropped during World War I fell on coastal towns in the southwest of England on the night of January 19, 1915. The small number of German bombs, also known as firebombs, were finned containers filled with kerosene and oil and wrapped with tar-covered rope. They were dropped from Zeppelin airships. On September 8, 1915, Zeppelin L-13 dropped a large number of firebombs, but even then the results were poor and they were generally ineffective in terms of the damage inflicted. They did, however, have a considerable effect on the morale of the civilian population of the United Kingdom. After further experiments with 5-liter barrels of benzol, in 1918, the B-1E Electron Firebomb was developed by scientists and engineers at the Gresham Electron Chemical Works. The bomb was ignited by a thermite charge, but the main incendiary effect was from the magnesium and aluminium alloy casing, which ignited at 650 degrees Celsius, burned at 1100 degrees Celsius and emitted vapor that burned at 1800 degrees Celsius. A further advantage of the alloy casing was its lightness, being a quarter of the density of steel, which meant that each bomber could carry a considerable number. The German High Command devised an operation called the Fireplan, which involved the use of the whole German heavy bomber fleet, flying in waves over London and Paris and dropping all the incendiary bombs that they could carry, until they were either all shot down or the crews were too exhausted to fly. The hope was that the two capitals would be engulfed in an inextinguishable blaze, causing the Allies to sue for peace. Thousands of electron bombs were stockpiled at forward bomber bases and the operation was scheduled for August and again in early September 1918, but on both occasions, the order to take off was countermanded at the last moment, perhaps because of the fear of Allied reprisals against German cities. The Royal Air Force had already used their own baby incendiary bomb which also contained a thermite charge. A plan to firebomb New York with new long-range Zeppelins of the L-70 class was proposed by the Naval Airship Fleet Commander Peter Strasser in July 1918, but it was vetoed by Admiral Reinhard Scheer. Development and use in World War II. Incendiary bombs were used extensively in World War II as an effective bombing weapon, often in a conjunction with high-explosive bombs. Probably the most famous incendiary attacks are the bombing of Dresden and the bombing of Tokyo. Many different configurations of incendiary bombs and a wide range of filling materials such as isobutyl methacrylate polymer, napalm, and similar gelid petroleum formulas were used, many of them developed by the U.S. Chemical Warfare Service. Different methods of delivery, for example small bombs, bomblet clusters and large bombs, were tested and implemented. For example, a large bomb casing was filled with small sticks of incendiary. The casing was designed to open at altitude, scattering the bomblets in order to cover a wide area. An explosive charge would then ignite the incendiary material, often starting a raging fire. The fire would burn at extreme temperatures that could destroy most buildings made of wood or other combustible materials. The German Luftwaffe started the war using the 1918 designed 1 kg magnesium alloy B-1E Electron brand bomb. Later modifications included the addition of a small explosive charge intended to penetrate the roof of any building which it landed on. Racks holding 36 of these bombs were developed, 4 of which could be fitted to an electrically triggered dispenser so that a single He-111 bomber could carry 1,152 incendiary bombs, or more usually a mixed load. Less successful was the Flammen Boom, a 250 kg or 500 kg high explosive bomb case filled with an inflammable oil mixture, which often failed to detonate and was withdrawn in January 1941. In World War II, incendiaries were principally developed in order to destroy the many small, decentralized war industries located throughout vast tracts of city land in an effort to escape destruction by conventionally aimed high-explosive bombs. Nevertheless, the civilian destruction caused by such weapons quickly earned them a reputation as terror weapons with the targeted populations. The Nazi regime began the campaign of incendiary bombings at the start of World War II with the bombing of Warsaw, and continued with the London Blitz and the bombing of Moscow, among other cities. Later, an extensive reprisal was exacted by the Allies in the strategic bombing campaign that led to the annihilation of many German cities. In the Pacific War, during the last 7 months of strategic bombing by B-29 superfortresses in the air war against Japan, a change to firebombing tactics resulted in some 500,000 Japanese deaths and 5 million more made homeless. 67 Japanese cities lost significant areas to incendiary attacks. The most deadly single bombing raid in all history was Operation Meeting House, an incendiary attack that killed some 100,000 Tokyo residents in one night. The 4-pound incendiary bomb, developed by ICI, was the standard light incendiary bomb used by RAF Bomber Command in very large numbers, declining slightly in 1944 to 35.8 million bombs produced. It was the weapon of choice for the British dehousing plan. The bomb consisted of a hollow body made from aluminium-magnesium alloy with a cast-iron steel nose, and filled with light incendiary pellets. It was capable of burning for up to 10 minutes. There was also a high-explosive version and delayed high-explosive versions which were specifically designed to kill rescuers and firefighters. Other tactics consisted of using explosive bombs in the attack to fill the streets with craters and rubble, hindering rescue services. Towards the end of World War II, the British introduced a much improved 30-pound incendiary bomb, whose fall was retarded by a small parachute and on impact sent out an extremely hot flame for 15 feet. This, the incendiary bomb, 30-pound, Type J, MKI, burned for approximately 2 minutes. Articles in late 1944 claimed that the flame was so hot it could crumble a brick wall. And for propaganda purposes the RAF dubbed the new incendiary bomb the Superflamer. Around 55 million incendiary bombs were dropped on Germany by Avro Lancasters alone. Many incendiary weapons developed and deployed during World War II were in the form of bombs and shells whose main incendiary component is white phosphorus, and can be used in an offensive anti-personnel role against enemy troop concentrations, but WP is also used for signaling, smoke screens, and target marking purposes. The U.S. Army and Marines used WP extensively in World War II and Korea for all three purposes, frequently using WP shells in large 4.2-inch chemical mortars. WP was widely credited by many Allied soldiers for breaking up numerous German infantry attacks and creating havoc among enemy troop concentrations during the latter part of World War II. In both World War II and Korea, WP was found particularly useful in overcoming enemy human wave attacks. Post-World War II incendiary weapons, modern incendiary bombs usually contained dynamite, made from aluminium and ferric oxide. It takes very high temperatures to ignite, but when alight, it can burn through solid steel. In World War II, such devices were employed in incendiary grenades to burn through heavy armor plate, or as a quick welding mechanism to destroy artillery and other complex machined weapons. A variety of pyrophoric materials can also be used, selected organometallic compounds, most often triethylaluminium, trimethylaluminium, and some other alkyl and aryl derivatives of aluminium, magnesium, boron, zinc, sodium, and lithium, can be used. Thickened triethylaluminium, a napalm-like substance that ignites in contact with air, is known as thickened pyrophoric agent, or TPA. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. Army developed the CBU-55, a cluster bomb incendiary fueled by propane, a weapon that was used only once in warfare. Napalm proper is no longer used by the United States, although the kerosene-fueled Mark 77 MOD-5 firebomb is currently in use. The United States has confirmed the use of Mark 77s in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. Incendiary Weapons and Laws of Warfare. Signatory states are bound by Protocol 3 of the UN Convention on Conventional Weapons, which governs the use of incendiary weapons, prohibits the use of incendiary weapons against civilians, prohibits the use of air-delivered incendiary weapons against military targets located within concentrations of civilians, and loosely regulates the use of other types of incendiary weapons in such circumstances. Protocol 3 states, though, that incendiary weapons do not include munitions which may have incidental incendiary effects, such as illuminates, tracers, smoke or signaling systems. Munitions designed to combine penetration, blast or fragmentation effects with an additional incendiary effect, such as armor-piercing projectiles, fragmentation shells, explosive bombs and similar combined effects. Munitions in which the incendiary effect is not specifically designed to cause burn injury to persons, but to be used against military objectives, such as armored vehicles, aircraft and installations or facilities. Use by criminal and terrorist groups. Incendiary devices have been used by criminal, terrorist and direct action groups to commit arson attacks on their targets. The Molotov cocktail is a classic incendiary device that has been used by insurrectionary anarchists and rioters. See also. References. External links: United States Strategic Bombing Survey 1946, Fire from the Sky 1944 article on the production of incendiary bombs, ANM 50 series incendiary bombs,